Okay, we are broadcasting from several locations actually. We're trying a Google Hangout on air for this webinar for an orientation to iLearn 3.0. I'm Jared Goodat. I'll be moderating this webinar tonight, and I'll introduce our panel of experts here in a minute. We will go ahead and begin with a word of prayer, and then I'll go over some logistics for the webinar, and then we'll proceed from there. I'll go ahead and offer that prayer. Our Heavenly Father, we're grateful for the opportunity to meet online throughout the United States to discuss a new product that BYU-Idaho is implementing. We pray Thy Spirit will be with us, that the technology will work well, and that participants can have their questions answered concerning this new learning management system. These things we sincerely pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, so I'm going to share my screen with everyone that's participating so we can go over just a couple of quick items here. I'd like to refer you to, or at least make you aware that perhaps the easiest way to contribute to the webinar tonight in the form of questions that you might have as they're showing things to us, that from the community in the iLearn 3.0 webinar page down here, there's two places to participate in the webinar tonight, either by clicking on this link, which takes you to the YouTube feed, or more importantly, if you would like to ask questions as part of the webinar, you can click on this link right here below. This will actually take you into the Google Hangout on air, where you can submit questions during the live webinar event. And when those questions come up, we'll take time to answer those questions. And you can submit those questions at any time during the webinar. Maybe just go over a little bit of terminology real quick. As we move along with implementing this new learning management system, we'll hear terms like D2L, Brightspace, iLearn 3.0. All of those terms are synonymous for our new learning management system. And so as you hear those terms, again, D2L, Brightspace, or iLearn 3.0, those are all terms related to this new learning management system that you'll see tonight. The broadcast is being recorded, so if you can't stay for the whole thing, or if you've come in late, or if you'd like to share it with your teaching groups and so forth, we will have a link out on the community by tomorrow so that others can view this. So we're going to go ahead and jump into letting our expert panel discuss various features of Brightspace, D2L, iLearn 3.0 tonight. I'll just introduce each of our experts briefly here. First, we have Patty Bingham. Patty has been teaching Art 117 for BYU-Idaho since 2010, and she's now in her 4th semester of using this new learning management system. Patty's been part of our pilot to see if this was a learning management system that we wanted as an institution. Hillary Weber, likewise, she's been teaching BYU-Idaho Foundation's capstone class as well as American Foundations, and she's also been part of the pilot program for Brightspace D2L to help us with this transition to this new learning management system. Carrie Johnson is also one of our experts this evening. Carrie is the online course administrator for BYU-Idaho. She's part of the transition team. She actually is heading up the transition team, taking us from our current learning management system to our new iLearn 3.0, and she has a wealth of knowledge regarding this system and transitioning to it. We also have Aaron Ball, who is on the iLearn 3.0 Brightspace project. Aaron has been involved with the LMS analysis and evaluation and the implementation efforts ever since spring of 2013. So Aaron also has a wealth of knowledge about why we're going to Brightspace, and he'll share some some information on that this evening. And then finally, we also have David Ashby. Dave Ashby is he is currently our instructor development manager. He'll be in charge of helping to provide training and resources to all of our instructors to be able to transition smoothly and seamlessly. And he'll be talking about that transition here in the webinar as well. So, having said that, again, I encourage you all to hop in to the Hangouts on Air space as opposed to the YouTube space if you would like to submit questions during the broadcast. And with that, we're going to turn some time over to Patty, who is going to jump in and show us some features of iLearn 3.0.
Can you all see that okay?
Yep. Thanks, Patty.
Alrighty. I am so excited to present to you some features that I love about Brightspace Desire to Learn, iLearn 3. And the thing that I would really like to highlight and share with you, to me, is one of the greatest features that they have, and this is the news feed. This is what the students see when they first come right onto the course. This I have found out to be something that is so easy to reach out to your students, and not only that, it's very versatile. I want to show you what I've done for this week. This is my my course, and what I do is I actually have timed things. So on Monday, I have where I have my announcements. I have a weekly announcement that I usually send out as a video, and then I post just an overview of the week. And I usually do it in graphics so that it's just a quick overview that the kids can just glance at. And then they all know that on Wednesday morning they can go to the news feed, and they will have their it's a group feedback video that I've created for them since I've been in Desire to Learn. When we teach art, we have to do individual, well, we've been doing individual feedback videos for our students to be able to explain to them ways that they can improve their work. Well, we found that there's a very low % of students that really pay any attention to the feedback videos. Well, because of this wonderful feature of the news feed, I decided to try group feedback videos in YouTube, and actually I get over maybe 75% of the students now, as opposed to about not even a quarter of the students looking at their feedback. And they like it because it's right there in their face. They just, you know, it's like all of us. We just want everything that's quick and easy because of all the different devices we have. We're on the go all the time. They just need to click on it, and there it is. In a matter of a couple of minutes, they can see their feedback. And then I also now use the news feed for a wall of art. You know, you could even do a student of the week if you wanted. I just think that there's all kinds of different things that if you'll just let your imagination run away with you, that you can use for the news feed. Then they know that as they get further into the week, on Fridays and Thursdays, then the notes from the instructor. This is how we do our notes from the instructor now. They come out on Thursday and Friday, and the students know to scroll down. And the reason why is because I put mine in a long, kind of a long image where they actually can see the same colors, and they scroll down, and it seems like the word's getting out. The kids, they'll ask me questions about an image that's on the news feed. So there's all kinds of ways that you can use the news feed. It's really simple to use, and I'll just show you just really quick. You can go into the news tool, and you can just click new item. But before I do, can you see that I actually have up to week 7? I've got all of my notes from the instructor, my feedback videos, everything is timed all the way up until June 11th. So I don't even have to think about it. Once you've gathered everything over your semester that you'd like to put on the newsfeed, it becomes easier, and every semester gets better. And you'll find other ways to use it. But just to be able to do an item, a new news item, is very, very simple. And I just want you just to look at this just for a moment. This is what another unique thing about Desire to Learn. we have this wonderful toolbar up here, which you will see in your email too. We can bring in images, we can link things that are into the course, and this is the best thing of all. This is called Stuff, and it's full of neat stuff. You can do a video note. I mean, it'll just pick you right up on your video cam, and you can just do a little video note here, and it'll copy and paste it right into the window. You can add a link here. Of course, you can go to your computer and pull something up. Just so many opportunities that you have with this. Then the other area that I'd like to take you into, I want to show you one of the grading tools that we have. And we have our students put things in what we call a Dropbox. Now, I'm just going to, this is the overall look. This has all the folders, and these are what we call a Dropbox, where our students will put their artwork into, and it's we can grade right from this area. And this is a neat function. Before I go any further, see right here where it says email users without submissions. Well, this is actually not really my course, but you can see that there's one student that didn't put it in. So this is a way of notifying that student right away that they did not, do the assignment, and maybe you'll give them a couple of days to get it in. And the other thing is that you can see that we have the functionality of being able to pull in attachments. We can also do a record audio, which works very slick. I've done it before. It's very clear, and it's another way of reaching out to your students. And then down here are their assignments. And over to the right-hand side, you can see that you can tell that if they've turned them in late. You can see which ones you have graded when it says published, and which ones have read their feedback. Let's go into one, and I'll just kind of show you briefly what it's like. Now, we have them put them into what we call a PDF file. And the reason why we have them put everything into a PDF file is because we have a lot of images, and it's easier for us to open up just one file instead of a whole bunch of files. And you can scroll right through it and see them at a glance. And then the rubrics are very handy. They open right up. And what I really like about the rubrics is that you can just open it right up. You can put in your feedback right here, and they can see the feedback that goes with that criteria that's there. And then the score will go right in, and you can also put additional feedback here, and you can even record some audio. Right now they're working on recording the video. That's still a little hard for the students to find, but it is a nice function. If you want to go to the next student, you just have to click next student, and it's really easy to use. Now, there is an app, and I'll just mention that just briefly. And the app has actually sped up my work by 2/3 of the time. And it has been really slick to use. You can download everything, and you can grade on the go, and you don't have to be online. So if you want to go to your doctor's office, or if you're husband or wife and you're on a trip, you can, if you're the passenger, you can be grading on the road, and then you can sync your grades when you get into an internet connection. But I just want to show you how the feedback looks in the grading rubric, and this is what it would look like if you were putting feedback in it. So that's just kind of a quick overview of what the Dropbox is like and the newsfeed.
Great. Thank you, Patty. Appreciate that. We'll go ahead and turn it over to Hillary now, who will share some other quick features.
Okay, so I'm not going to be as neat as Patty about all this. She showed you some pretty slick stuff. So I'm going to just show you just two things that I really like. And right now, hopefully, you can see like this main board. I'm trying to look to see. Okay, so really the great part is this is kind of in the content feature of your course. So this is where your main classes and lessons will be. And I just want to show you just a couple of visuals right now. And one of my favorite features is that visually, right off the bat, with these numbers out to the side, so you see lesson 1 here and you see 14. That means I have 14 either folders to view or assignments as well. And so when that gets to 0, the students absolutely know that they've done everything possible, turned in everything, because there are some things you can't check off unless you've actually done a Dropbox or a quiz, taken the quiz and stuff. So if you have 0, the students are absolutely sure that they have finished everything that they need to in that assignment. And visually right off the bat, that's one of the things that I really like about Brightspace or iLearn3. Also, too, what I like is when you hover over something and it turns gray, that means that you can just click on it to edit. And so as you can see right there, here pops up that little thing so that I can just edit it right away. And I'm going to kind of move this down so that I can see it a little bit more. So I'm going to move this right here. And that's one thing I like too, is if you come over here to the side and you have this little gray kind of arrow down, it'll let you kind of move it down to where you can do anything you want or change it up. I'm not going to change this up. I like this the way it is. So I just hit update, and there's where that is. So that's one of the great features about this is it's the editing tool. It makes it very easy to do and quick. And then the second one that I want to go to and show you a little bit about what Patty was talking about when it comes to the Dropbox feature. I really love being able to have this side-by-side view of being able to grade a paper. So here's one of our assignments in here, which is just, you know, a Word document. And then right by the side, I have an opportunity to give feedback. So what I'm going to do really quick is show you that I can kind of move this screen over a little bit. It allows me to move this and change this up, and then I can make my box bigger. Now, what you'll probably see here are these odd colors and boxes, and that's something that I kind of want to show you. In my little preview over here, I'm going to click on that so it comes up, and you can see this little preview. So I created this rubric. So this is my own grading rubric that I did not input into iLearn3. Instead, on a Word document, I made this table up, color-coded it and all that stuff. And when you use Firefox, if you copy and paste whatever you have in a Word document, it copies and pastes exactly like it is. So all these different things we're able to translate over, and this is the view that the students would be able to see as well when it comes to my grading rubric. Now those things, on the majority, what I love the most, as you could probably tell, the visual aspect of iLearn. And lastly, before I hand this over, something that I have seen, a correlation, if you will, between the students and who will email me and kind of go, I'm having trouble. I can't navigate. This is kind of difficult for me. It's totally understandable in the beginning. I totally get it. But what I always do is I go in and I check their user progress. When I go to click on user progress, and again, these students aren't real, obviously, fortunately, for this demo. Jane's real. Look at Jane. Jane's amazing. Jane's been in 73 times. Good job, Jane. So what this tells me, though, a lot of times when someone will say, I am not very good at this, or I can't figure it out, I'll look at their user progress to see how many times they've been in. And there is a huge correlation between those who have logged in and just visited the site and only stayed there a little bit to not understanding. The more students are in there and practicing and navigating through it, the easier it becomes. It really is very user-friendly on the student side especially. So that is something to also take into account when it comes to this new system. The more you're in there, the more it will feel at ease and that you'll understand where you're going with everything. So those are just kind of two of my things that I wanted to show.
Great. Thank you, Hillary. Appreciate that. We're going to turn it now over to Aaron, who will show us a little bit about the current learning management system as opposed to this new learning management system.
Thanks, Jared. So I've got my screen shared. I'm hoping that you will be able to see that okay. So let's go ahead and get started. what I plan to do is to share some thoughts about how Brightspace is structured. So this is kind of behind the scenes, under the hood, if you want to think of it that way. The intent and the hope is that understanding this will prove helpful to you to understanding why common tasks are done the way that they are and how things behave if changes need to be made to the curriculum in the course that you're teaching. And the way that I'm going to do this is I'll explain the structure of Brightspace by contrasting it with the structure of BrainHoney, which you're all familiar with. So let's go ahead and start there. Let's look at BrainHoney. So the course curriculum in BrainHoney is really centered in the course plan or the course view. Students interact with the curriculum through the course view, and then design and modifications and adjustments made by designers and by instructors take place in course plan. There's a variety of different items. They're all stored within course plan, so assignments, discussions, content items, assessments, they're all there. And each of those items may have different attributes specified to describe those individual items. So what do I mean by that? Well, things like outcomes or rubrics, if the assignment is, or if the experience or discussion is split up into groups, grade properties, all of those are different attributes attached to each of those items that live within course plan or course view. Now there's other tools that you're all familiar with that instructors and students can use in BrainHoney to perform other tasks. So these are like the announcements tool, the gradebook, do soon list. The instructors and designers also have access to the resources area where files can be stored and then made available to students. So at kind of a relatively high level, this is how BrainHoney is structured, or how you might think of how BrainHoney is structured under the hood or behind the scenes. Well, in Brightspace, the structural paradigm changes. So instead of the curriculum items living in a central place, like they are in course plan, they're housed in individual buckets or collections. So here, for example, you have Dropbox and discussion and quiz items, and they each live in a separate collection or a bucket. And then all of those curricular items are added and linked in the content tool. Patty showed us, Patty and Hillary both showed us that, I think. And that's where students will access the items. They access and view the curriculum through the content tool. And then if any of those items are graded, then grade items are also created and then linked to the item in its respective collection or bucket. And students can view that feedback and grade information in the grades tool. So what does this look like in a course? So to visualize this, how this works, here's an example from the American Foundations class, one of the classes that has been piloting in Brightspace. So you should be able to see three screenshots here, three separate screenshots showing the content, quiz, and grades tools or collections. And you can see that exam 1 is in each of these tools. So they're in each one, but note that although they're labeled the same, they're actually three separate items and they're linked together. The actual exam is housed in the quiz collection or the quiz tool, and it's sequenced in the course and made accessible and visible to students over in the content area, in the content item that points to that quiz. And then after the student takes the quiz, points that are achieved in the quiz are stored in the quiz tool and then are passed to the exam 1 grade item, where they're aggregated with the other course points and are used to calculate and track the overall student's score. Now, just like in BrainHoney, there are other tools as well in Desire to Learn that are helpful for the students and the instructors. I'll just kind of highlight some of those briefly and give you a view into what some of them look like. So, for example, news. Patty did a great job of showing us the news tool, similar to the announcements or notes from instructor in use. The user progress is one that Hillary showed. I'll just show you here. So you saw this view, which is the instructor view of class progress, where you will see the view of all the students kind of listed together. If you were to come over here and click on one of the names of the students, you would be able to see the individual, more detailed information about that individual student's progress. It's also what the student would see when they go to user progress. So if we clicked over here, then this is just one image. It's kind of some dummy data, so it's not fully filled out. But this is similar to what a student would see when they go to user progress. And they would be able to click in on any of these different areas or different content items or item types to see their feedback or see how well they performed on a different assignment or activity. The calendar tool is another one. There's one of those in BrainHoney, a little bit more robust in Desire to Learn. Some different ways to be able to view the content in a course. All course items that have dates attached to them can be viewed together. Calendar feed is also made available that can be synced out of Desire to Learn and synced to like a Google or an iCal feed, some other calendaring tool. And then one new tool available in Desire to Learn that's not available in BrainHoney is the class list. So this is available to instructors and to students. And there's indicators here, or a listing of all of the students in the course. When they add in their images, they'll show up. Students and instructor can contact and email other students through the class list. And then if a user chooses to allow this, then there's an indicator that will indicate to other students in the class if that user is online at that point in time. So something that can be helpful for students to help know how to contact each other, and for the instructor to be able to contact or email the whole class or groups as needed. There's some other tools that are also available mainly to instructors, although the results of some of these are made visible to the students. So rubrics, we saw some of that with what Patty showed us. Competencies that designers will design into the course to help us understand how students are achieving different learning gains or other outcomes. Grouping students into different groups, and then the Manage Files area, which is kind of similar to the Resources area in BrainHoney. So this has been pretty fast. I hope that it's been helpful. You'll understand more as you get into the system, but the intent really was to help you to have a better understanding of how the curriculum is organized and linked together in Brightspace and how that's different than in BrainHoney. And so hopefully, again, like I say, that this contextual understanding of the structure of Brightspace will be helpful to you and answer some of the why questions that you may have as you start to learn with and work in this new system.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Appreciate that. We're going to now go to Carrie. You're up.
Thanks. I want to thank everybody who's presented before. They've covered a lot of really important things and different tools that I think also are really valuable in Brightspace. I'm going to just touch on a couple more that we don't have in BrainHoney that I think can be really valuable for students. The first one is notifications, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen as well. One right there. So hopefully you're going to see my American Foundation's version of my course, or the course, and I'm going to go into notifications. So as a student or as a faculty member, I can go in and set up notifications. So I can have email notifications coming to my email address, or I can register my mobile phone, so I also have the option to get some text messages on different items. And then what I can do is I can select what I want to get updates on. So if I want an email notification telling me about different things, I can come in, I can look at discussions. If I want to see if someone has responded to my discussion so that I can respond back, so we actually can have a live conversation, I can turn that on. I can also get notifications when assignments are 2 days away. So since we are losing the due soon list in BrainHoney, this is one option to help students keep track of assignments that are coming up. And notice I can set up either email or text messaging or both. I can also get a notification by email or text if my instructor has created a new news item or a new announcement, and then I can be updated right away. And I can also notice when grade items have been released. So that is something that can help me keep track of when my instructor has given me feedback on my different assignments. So those are just a few of the things that we get. Students also by default get notifications right up here at the top of their screen. For example, I've got this little red dot. Anytime there's a red dot, it shows that you've got some notification of some sort. And so what you'll do is just click on it. This will probably say I really have nothing, but for some reason it's there. But most of the time there is something. So if there's a new news item, or if someone has responded to my discussion board post, or if someone has sent me a little message, I can see that there. Another tool that I think is valuable is the quiz tool. And I would say probably more for the grading of essay type questions is one of the things I really like about this. I was going to see if there's one that has, here we go. If I come into seminar worksheets, these ones are actually essay type questions, and as an instructor I can come in and I can grade them by question. So what I can do is I can say, okay, I want to see what my response to question 1 is. And I can also blind mark my essays. So for example, I can turn this on, and then when I open it up, I don't see which student is which, so I can be a lot more fair in my grading. What I can do then is I can turn on how many I want to see at a time, and then I can just go down, I can read my students' posts or their responses. I can give them a score. I can come in here, and that one kind of missed the boat, but that's okay. I'll give them a point anyway. And then what I can do is just go ahead and save it, and then go back to my questions and get the next question. So that is something that I think is really valuable and can help in grading items as instructors are grading those essay questions. Another thing, and you saw this when Patty and Hillary were talking about content, and as Aaron talked about content as well. When the students come in, they'll be able to they'll open up their module or their lesson for the week, and then they can start going down the list of items. There are a couple different ways that they can navigate. So they can come into this discussion board, they can read her response or her post as well, and then they can navigate kind of like reading a book, right? It's turning to the next page. Then I can open up my document, read my document, mark that I've completed it, and then go on to the next page. Read it, mark that I've completed it. And all of that helps them track, and as they see it, actually let me flip into the view as a student. As those students view those different pages, then notice they've got this progress bar where let's see, I've already looked at that one, and so my progress bar updates. And then, I can read my different pages, I can mark off that I've completed them, and then I can go on. Oh, I've got a little error there. Next page. Anyway, so they can navigate through. There's also another navigation if they decide they don't necessarily need to go in order. They can also pull open this sidebar and say, okay, I'm ready to open up this particular assignment or this particular page, and then they can open that up. And so there are just a few different ways that they can navigate, so they can find a way that works well for them. And I think that that is really helpful. And from reports that we've heard from students, being able to have this progress bar is something that is helpful for helping them to keep track and make sure that they've accomplished the things that they need to do. So those are just a couple of things that I think can be helpful. And as we design courses, we're working to make them very linear so that students can navigate easily and find the materials for their classes in ways that are easy for them to access. So
Great.
that is,
Thank you.
go ahead, Jared.
Thank you, Carrie. Appreciate that. We're now going to turn some time over to Dave, who will talk a little bit about the actual transition to this new learning management system.
Great. Thanks, Jared. Yeah, I just want to take a second and show some of the training plans that we've got in place for the transition. So I'm going to pull this open real fast and share this with you. So you may have seen this, you may not have, but this is on the community site. We have this transition plan up so that you can see, first of all, what group you're in and see what's going to happen each stage along the way. And so first I want to talk about stage 1. So we're actually working through stage 1 right now, and that's course migration and pilot instructor training. And so that's just this group right here. And so what we're going to do is, in this phase, we're going to be taking the existing courses, and they'll be migrated from BrainHoney into iLearn 3. And while that's happening, one instructor will be chosen to pilot each course, and those pilot instructors will go through an iLearn 3 certification course. And I'll tell you more about that course in just a second. The second phase along the way is the course will be in pilot. So one section of each course in this group will be in pilot. And then the rest of the instructors that will be taking that course live the following semester will be in training that current semester. So during this semester, everyone that's going to be live will be training. And so this is the other things that are happening here. So one section from each course, instructors will be live. And this one note that I wanted to give here is that on-campus courses will not have a pilot. So if you ever see like the iLearn 3 page on the BYU-I site, you won't see anything about pilot. We're only doing pilots for iLearn 3 inside Brightspace. And then we have the last section, which is when we go live, and all online and on-campus courses in this group will then go live in Brightspace. So I mentioned earlier this iLearn 3 certification course for existing instructors. So what this course looks like is it's going to be a 2-week asynchronous course that will require between 2 and 4 hours a week, so a total of about anywhere between 4 and 8 hours from the instructor. And the instructor will complete this course in the semester prior to them going into Brightspace. So while you're teaching in BrainHoney, you'll be working on getting certified in iLearn 3. One of the thoughts that we had around this is that the semester prior to your transition, when you're supposed to be getting this training, you could use your goal setting. In fact, we thought goal setting is going to be one of the key points here. So you know how we do our goals once each semester as part of our professional development plans. It would just be a smart idea, a wise idea, if that was your goal the semester before, is to get up to speed and prepared for iLearn 3. This course will be offered every 2 weeks, beginning week 7 of the semester. So if you're going to be transitioning in winter of 16 weeks, starting week 7 of 2015, fall of 2015, you could start this pilot transition existing certification course. Course completion is required to teach in iLearn 3, and this course will cover the basic course facilitation skills. And I just want to point out right up front that we're trying not to steal you away from the other courses that you're teaching when you're trying to get trained on iLearn 3. And so we're only going to give you between 4 and 8 hours of total training on iLearn 3. What we'll do is we'll put more advanced modules and training documents and videos into OL 200 so that after you finish the existing instructor certification course, even though you're certified, you're not going to be perhaps up to speed and maybe as versatile as you'd like. And so all of the extra modules and extra stuff that you're going to need is going to be in OL 200. So let's see. Next thing I want to show you is this is a list of all the training courses and events that my team puts on. And so this is just a quick little diagram about when we're going to be transitioning each different piece. And this can be a little overwhelming, so a lot of it's not super important. So just a few things that I wanted to point out is that right now we're currently working on transitioning OL 200 into Brightspace so that beginning fall of 2015 you will be able to get OL 200 in either Brightspace or BrainHoney. And then eventually the BrainHoney version will be completely phased out. This summer we're also building new instructor certification for iLearn 3 and this existing instructor certification for iLearn 3 that we've been talking about. Other courses that we're working on are OL 301 and 300, which are OCR training and TGL and AIM trainings, and all of those extra trainings that we have this summer will all get updated and refreshed with extra tidbits and information about Brightspace and iLearn3 and how it's going to affect those unique populations. We're really, really excited about this transition. Some of the things that my team's been playing with, which I just want to echo some of the things that Patty and Hillary have mentioned, and Carrie as well, and Aaron. Some of the things they pointed out, like the news item, the Dropbox tool, those tools are head and shoulders above what we've been able to use in Brain Honey, and so the functionality I think is really going to be pretty fun for most instructors, especially learning something new that lets most instructors do new things, communicate and connect with students in new ways, and that's what I'm excited about most. So with that, I'm going to turn the time back over to Jared.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it. We're going to now go into some questions that have been submitted. I'll go ahead and share my screen again just to remind everybody that if you would like to submit questions, of course you can view from the community, you can view the presentation here, which is the YouTube link, but if you would like to submit questions, you can submit them down here, and then for all of you that are in that page, you can see the questions, and then you can +1 those questions on the page itself. So, as we look at some of these questions, some of them may have already been answered to some extent, but it's probably worth going through them again for our panel of experts. I may single 1 or 2 of you out, but if you would be willing to chime in as well, that would be very helpful. And we're going to look at these for the next 10 to 15 minutes in order of those that have gotten the most +1s. So we'll start with this first one. Will our courses information carry from semester to semester rather than needing to add our materials at the beginning of every semester? Carrie, would you maybe be willing to try and tackle that one, or anyone else if you feel like you can respond to that?
Sure, I'm happy to answer that one. With that one, we are starting out with a new version of the course each semester, and so things like your instructor profile, it will carry over from semester to semester. But if you have additional materials that you use, then those will need to be copied. There are a couple of things that we may look into as we move forward as far as being able to copy components, but as of right now, you will need to go ahead and copy those.
Carrie, you want to talk about quickly how they'll have access to old versions of their course to
Sure.
do that copy?
Yeah, so right now, those previous versions of your course will still be available, and so what you can do is you'll be able to pull them up side by side and copy and paste the code in, or copy and paste the materials in from one of your sections previously to the current section.
Great. Would anybody else like to add anything to that? Okay, we'll consider that question done. And these questions, this is one feature of Google Hangouts on Air, these questions will be tabbed within the timeline of this broadcast, so users can click anywhere in the broadcast to see answers to these questions, which is a pretty cool feature. We'll go on to this next one. The question is, how is it determined who will pilot each course in the new LMS? Carrie, you might be the best equipped to answer that one as well. I'm not sure.
I'm not sure either. My guess is that we would start by talking to the instructor managers and coordinating that with them. It's likely that the current OCRs will be some of the first to pilot, but that is to be determined. Dave, have you guys talked about it on your team at all?
We've talked about it. I wouldn't say much more than what you've just said. That's about where we're at.
Okay. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Okay, next question, and I think this is regarding a specific feature within Brightspace, so I encourage any of you to chime in. question is, will there still be feedback templates that we can personalize?
So currently there are not feedback templates in Brightspace. We are working to integrate Turnitin, which allows, it has the grade mark feature, and that does allow for templated feedback where you can pull up a student's document and drag your comments over. That will be integrated later in June, and then it will be available for instructors as we develop courses. So any documents that students upload. You can also copy and paste in from like a Word document, like Hillary showed tonight. If you do that, you can put in a first name in curly braces, and what that does is it will pull in the student's first name into that feedback box. So in that way, you can personalize it by putting their name in, but your template will contain that code, and so you don't have to type in a person's name each time you want to give them feedback.
Great. Thank
Jared,
you.
do you mind if
please.
I also answer that? Okay, so yeah, just kind of going along with what Carrie said. So that was the first feature, one of the first ones I noticed that iLearn 3 did not have, and at first I thought that was a minus, but I actually preferred having all of my feedback in a Word document and cutting and pasting it. And one of the main reasons why is when I went back to iLearn 2 and I was using that feedback feature, I realized it actually took more time to click on, okay, now let me look up and scroll through what my other feedback was, and so in reality, it was actually quicker for me to have it in a Word document, even though this Turnitin that Carrie's talking about sounds awesome too. I just want to assure people that I really like having it in my Word document. It works more seamless, in my opinion.
Great. Thank you. We will move on to another question here. Again, I'm pulling these questions out based on the +1ing that's going on out there, similar to liking. Next question is, if we are taking off a semester as an online instructor during the semester that our group undergoes the transition, when will we have training for the new learning management system, the new LMS? Dave, do you want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I'll take a stab at that. So the plan right now is that even if you're taking the semester off, they're going to have multiple offerings during that off semester to complete the iLearn certification, the iLearn 3 certification. And so regardless whether you're on contract or not, you'll have that time, you'll have flexibility of schedule to still go through that course. So we're not at this point making any extra changes or anything. We just want to make sure that all instructors are certified and prepared in iLearn 3 to give students the best experience possible. So even if you're taking the semester off, we ask that you still try to look at the schedule and pick a time when that 2 weeks is going to work best for you and you go through the course.
Great, thank you. Perhaps there was a related question in here that I'm now searching for. If I find it later, we'll come back to it. There's a question here regarding mobile devices. Will we be able to use this on an iPad or probably any other mobile devices? I don't know, Aaron, are you maybe the best equipped to respond to that, or Carrie?
I'll take a stab, and then Carrie, feel free to chime in as well. So there are a couple of apps that are available for Brightspace. The first one is one that was mentioned by Patty, which is the Grader app. That allows you for Dropbox items to download those items and to grade them offline using the app, and then resync back when you're connected again, and provide that feedback back to your students. So that is an iPad app. There is not currently an app for the entire learning management system, meaning that you would use to reply in discussions and participate in that way and so forth. However, the learning management system is responsive in design and will work well on a tablet device, meaning that the size and proportions and things are good for a tablet. For a phone, it will work, but it's going to be a little bit small. So those are, I think, the things that I would point out as far as currently what's available for an app that might be useful. On the student side, there is also another app that's called Binder. That's an Android and an iOS app, and it makes it possible for students to be able to download course content materials, and make them available for viewing and study offline. It does not do discussions or facilitate the submission of Dropbox items or allow students to take quizzes offline. It is focused just on content, so maybe readings or things of that nature. But it does make that available offline for them if they'd like to be able to use that. We do know that that the company Desire to Learn is developing and working on another app that will be more of a fully functional app for the entire kind of experience, but that's not, I don't know if we have a timeline for when that will be available. So I don't know, Carrie, is there anything else that you'd like to add on that?
Nope, you got it. Sounded good to me.
I'd like to chime in here just for a moment, and if I may, and just let everybody know out there that I have used the grading app as opposed to using the Dropbox traditionally, and the grading app is fabulous. I mean, if you were to compare the two, because at a glance I can tell immediately when a student has put in a late assignment. I can tell how far behind I am maybe on a group of assignments. I can see what I've completed at a glance, and as fast as you can swipe your finger, you can grade. And you can, like I said, it's very convenient. You can walk around the house and grade, or you can be on the go. So I really feel like the grading app itself is well worth, a while, your time, if you have an iPad. I've really enjoyed it.
Patty, didn't you buy an iPad just for that?
That is correct. We made the investment just for that because it was very time consuming because I had so many windows I had to open up inside the Dropbox, and now I just do everything right there on the iPad, and it has saved me so much time. It's wonderful. Love it.
Great, thank you. With looking at the time check, we'll maybe get to one or two more questions here. Sorry we can't get to them all. These are great questions. While this question isn't directly related to instructors, it's important based on the 1+s here. Let me pull it up here. What training is going to be available to students to introduce them to the new D2L courses? I'm not sure if any of us can adequately answer that, but Carrie, you've been involved in some conversations. You might be able to help us with this.
So as we're working very closely with university relations as we roll out Brightspace, and one of the things that we are in the process of doing is creating a website specific for students. So we've got the iLearn3 website that is targeted to faculty, and we will also have an iLearn3 website for students. And as we roll out new features, we will have training available for them and information specific to them as we market and work towards the implementation from the student perspective.
Carrie, do you also maybe want to make mention of the fact that we're working on a centralized landing page for those students that may have courses in both LMSs for a short period of time?
Yes, you just covered it. Good job. So with that, what we're doing is we are finding a way to pull in links to both courses from Brain Honey and from Brightspace. So as students may have courses in both LMSs, so what we'll do is we'll have a landing page so they'll see their list of courses, and then they'll be able to click that link, and wherever their course lives is where it will take them. So that is in the process of being built. I believe that will roll out, or they're hoping to have that completed for winter semester when a larger group of students will start having classes in both systems.
Great.
Real quick, I want to add to that and say that just like we've done with Brain Honey, we're going to have probably a small list at first, but we'll be building on a list of videos. And if there may be a lot of the same videos that are going to be in that website that Carrie will have, but we'll make sure we'll have those in our online instruction library so that instructors, if they wanted to, could take and share those in their news tool inside their course, or in feedback or wherever else it might be.
Thank you. Last question, and then we'll wrap up. This one is with regard to how soon will we have access to our new course when it's gone through the pilot phase and we're ready to go live with it for all sections. Carrie?
I can answer that. Typically in the past, instructors have been given access to their course 3 weeks prior to the beginning of the semester, and our goal is that that will maintain the same amount of time, so you'll still have about 3 weeks prior to this semester starting where you'll have access to your course.
Great, thank you. Well, we appreciate everybody tuning in this evening for this webinar. Again, this has been recorded, and so we will post it out in the online instruction community for you to review or share with those in your group and so forth. We hope that you can spread the word. We wanted to get a webinar up and running quickly so that we could calm some fears and perhaps some anxiety or stress some might be feeling. And want to thank all of our experts for participating this evening. I think it's been successful. We've had a lot of viewers, and transitions from expert to expert have been smooth. And we thank you for tuning in this evening and hope to see you back again in a future webinar soon. Thank you.
Hey, Jared, just as a quick mention, I'm willing to stick around and answer some of these questions since we're kind of signing off. If we want to cut off the live feed or whatever, however you want to handle that, but I'd be willing to answer some of these extra questions for people who would like.
Great, sounds good.
One other question or a comment maybe for Jared or Carrie. The website that has information about the transition also has a Q&A page. And if we don't have time to answer all of these questions, I don't know, Carrie, would this be an opportunity where we could take some of these themes or questions and add them to the Q&A or FAQ page on the website?
Yes, definitely. So we can do the same for the community. So we can put them on the iLearn3 website that's just off of the BYU-Idaho homepage. And we can also update in the community the answers to these questions so people will have access to them.
Great, so if anybody would like to stick around, Dave has volunteered to maybe go through a couple more of these questions that have been submitted. Otherwise, feel free to sign off.
As we're signing off, I just want to say thanks again to Patty and Hillary and Aaron and Carrie. You guys really appreciate you guys joining us for this. All right, Jared, I'm going to kind of pound through some of these questions as quickly as I can. So Tori's got a question here on will the course fix improvement process change at all in the new LMS? And I know Carrie could probably answer this better than me, but I'll tell you what I know, and that is that the process is changing somewhat, but actually in anticipation for the change, the course improvement process has already changed in Brain Honey. It just hasn't been very transparent. So the change really is this, that a lot of changes that are being made, Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, course improvement is asking certain instructors to make those changes in their courses.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. Because we lose the master derivative model with our courses, we are pushing out a lot of those fixes. We would still like those fixes and improvements to be reported so that we can fix them in the master course. So when we make the copies for the next semester, we've got the most updated version. But yeah, we will be pushing out a lot of the course or the individual fixes out to individual instructors.
Yeah.
One thing that I'll add to that is that any fixes that are more of a minor nature, that might be more, grammatical things or things like that, it may just be a notification that's made available to the instructors teaching that course. the home office here probably won't make those updates to the current semester course. They will be made to the master that will be used to create the next semester courses. So that's why it's still important and valuable to get that feedback and receive that. And unless it's more of a significant or urgent, high priority problem in a course that needs to be addressed, the home office might get involved in something like that, or might communicate with instructors to say, hey, this is something that you should be aware of, or if you'd like to, change this, this is how you'd go about doing that.
So next question I see on here is, does using a Mac versus a PC make a difference as far as compatibility with Brightspace? Thanks, Carmen, for that question. And Aaron, this would probably be good for you, but as far as I know, I have not seen any difference. I've been using it in both, and it's looked great for me.
Yeah, I can't speak a lot to that. I'm not aware of any issues between PC or Mac. There was a related question to this along the line of browsers. I'm not sure. I use Chrome. I've also used Firefox with it, and I've felt that it works well in both of those. I think Safari is well supported. I don't know that. I believe that they do not necessarily recommend Internet Explorer. Most of our users do use either Firefox or Chrome right now. So I think those would be the ones that we would recommend at this point.
Excellent. I really liked this question. Can students and instructors tag each other in discussion comments? And I think it's a great suggestion, but I don't think that's possible. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody.
I haven't seen that as being possible.
Yeah. It would be cool, though.
Mm-hmm.
This question was, my course is not listed on the transition training plan, or on the transition plan. How will I know when the transition will happen? Carrie, I don't think that's possible. I think that might just be a way that we need to change maybe how we're advertising what's going to transition when.
I think we've tried to be really careful in our list of courses, so we're working with the course improvement team to make sure that we've got all of the courses and all of the versions of the different courses. And so it may be possible that maybe a department isn't listed, or someone maybe isn't sure which department theirs exactly falls in. If it's like a foundations course, those foundations courses will be migrated with their home departments. Other than that, we can certainly take a look at that if you want to get a hold of one of us individually, and we can figure out when that course will be transitioned.
Yeah, I was trying to find my transition plan, but I lost it. But yeah, they might just be that they're not clicking on each group. If you click on each different group, you'll see the different departments that are in there. Every department should be listed. Anybody else see any other questions that jumped out at them?
I think on this question on pathway courses, pathway courses will also run in Brightspace, and they'll be designed and developed in a lot of the same ways so that students will still navigate the same way. We're currently working on a bridge so that they'll have a way to log in to their course and they'll be able to access it. But all of that will be taken care of, and the interactions will be very similar for pathway courses.
I see a couple other questions here from Tori, but Tori, first things first, can alerts and notifications be sent to instructors and student emails similar to what we experience in the community or Facebook? Yeah, so the nice thing about the notifications is that students and instructors set up how they want to be notified. That is probably the coolest feature about, well, one of the coolest features I like about Brightspace. So you set up when you want to be notified, whether it's being replied to on a discussion board post, when a news item is added, when something is graded. And then you can get those notifications via text or via email. And the other thing that's really cool is you can subscribe to discussion board threads. So within a discussion, if, say what David says is not very interesting, but what Jared says is very interesting, you can subscribe to Jared's thread and not to mine. So that's just a really cool feature on the back end. The other thing I saw here from Tori was, where's the best place for us to post questions that didn't get answered tonight? And we'll definitely host a Q&A spot in the instructor community based on iLearn 3 and iLearn 3 transition, and we'll have that space up probably in the next week or so. The last one that I saw here was from Elizabeth Larson about evaluation and certification. Will instructors, new instructors that are going through evaluation and certification, receive information on iLearn 3? Yes, they will. Everybody's going to go through evaluation the way it's always been for now. Evaluation will be transitioned last. Certification will be transitioned first. And what we'll do is we'll have a list of all the instructors that are going to be teaching the next semester in Brain Honey versus Brightspace. And those that are going to be in Brightspace will do a certification course in Brightspace. And those that will be in Brain Honey will certify in Brain Honey. And then if they're transitioning in semesters after in Brightspace, they will go through the existing instructor certification. Instructor evaluation will transition over sometime during 2016. I believe right now we'll probably pilot it sometime between winter or spring of 2016, and it will go fully live. We'll only evaluate in Brightspace probably spring or fall of 2016.
Tori, in answer to your question about who's putting in the work when it comes to transitioning the courses, we've got a team that is central here in the home office. We've got currently 4 full-time employees, actually 3 currently, and 1 will be starting on Monday. And we've got a team of students who is assisting with that. We are in connection with the course leads to be able to determine if anytime we have questions about the content or questions where things need to be changed because the system is different, then we are in connection with those course leads to determine the best course of action. But we do have a specific team that has been hired specific to the transition. And they're working very closely with faculty members here on campus and with those course leads.
I'll take a stab at Mike Elrod's question about the reasoning behind the transition to iLearn 3 being due strictly or mostly to increase student capacity. So first off, I will mention that the iLearn 3 website and in the community there should be some information about the purposes and the reasons behind switching from Brain Honey to Brightspace. There's a video that Fenton Broadhead, our academic vice president, has provided some information about that. Essentially, there were kind of 3 main categories or elements that were important in making the decision. One had to do with the relationship between BYU-Idaho and the vendor who would be providing this software service for the university. The quality of that relationship, how comfortable and confident we felt that that vendor would be continuing to invest in their product and making improvements in the near and the long term. So that was one area that was important. A second component that was important was the technology side. So the stability and performance and reliability of the platform and the product. So uptime, how responsive the product is, those types of things. I think that gets mostly to your question about kind of capacity. That was in a component that was considered as part of the transition. Is BYU-Idaho needed to have confidence that the system would support a growing student body and demands on the servers and other hardware. And then the last had to do with the product itself, the features, how well it enabled students to learn, and different analytics or other information to help instructors and administrators understand how we're doing and how we can improve. So kind of considering those 3 things together, those were the main kind of criteria, pillars, or underpinnings that formed the basis of the structure for making that decision to go ahead and transition.
I'll take a stab at the last one. What can we do as OCRs to help our courses transition to iLearn 3? And this is a great question. And for right now, I would say the best thing you could do is communicate. If you can keep communicating with your instructors, whether that be through your community OCR space, or if that's just via email with the other instructors that teach your course, the communication factor is going to be most important. So make sure you take the time as you go through iLearn 3 training. When you're going through the OCR training and we start adding iLearn 3 elements to that training, we'll try to be as mindful as we can of your role to be the liaison to help communicate to these instructors. But they do look to the OCR to kind of help give them guidance about what this is. But if anything, I would say this one last thing is the OCR's role is content more so than facilitation. So what I would say is continue to learn the tool to see how the tool in the future can be used most effectively to help students engage in learning activities. And that's probably where I'd leave it for now.
This last one, Carrie, was this the one that you addressed regarding pathway students?
Yeah, it is.
Interface any differently?
Yeah, and it will be the same. We are working on getting a bridge between the church and between BYU-Idaho so that those pathway students can be enrolled, but the interface on the courses will be the same.
Right. Okay, there was a few diehards out there that stuck it through all of those remaining questions. We appreciate you sticking it out. And again, we will publish or post this webinar in the community to be able to view or to share with others in your groups or colleagues. We encourage you to do that. And again, thanks to all of our participants. And if there's nothing else that needs to be said, I'll go ahead and stop the broadcast. Thanks, everyone.